So once again, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday night Hermitage gathering. One of the things I just started doing a few days ago was noticing when I was waking up in the morning, early in the morning, I usually set my alarm for around 3:30, feeling a bit on the grumpy side, which is quite, I think, natural for most people at 3:30 in the morning. Just a little bit tired and still trying to pull myself awake to get up and do my exercises. But I decided that I needed to try and invoke more of a positive state of mind. So I brought one of our chanting books to my cabin, my kuti, and just started reading through in the mornings as I was lying there, waking up, reading through the Mangala Sutta, the highest blessings, and just allowing myself to reflect with gratitude along the lines of the blessings, sometimes getting through most of them, and other times just lingering on a few, and just noticing that how nice it is to introduce those kinds of reflections just in the waking moments. And it helps really set a tone, make it a whole lot easier to get up and get going and get ready for morning puja. Yeah, and so I'm just noticing a lot of gratitude for all of the things that we have here at the Hermitage, and for myself in my life. Gratitude for the teachings and the teachers and the good spiritual companionship. Many things to feel good about. Just gotta turn the mind towards them. So anyway, I just wanted to share that brief reflection about just for me a more skillful way of getting going in the morning. It's been quite nice, actually. Kind of speaking of teachers and teachings, had a bit of a discussion with someone this morning about, within the Buddhist tradition, about teacher-student relationships, and been thinking about that a little bit throughout the day, and how there's a wide range of ways that people hold the relationship between a practitioner who's still learning on the path, and maybe how to use the relationship with a teacher, someone who's been doing it longer and has some things to offer as guidance, and how different traditions, even within the Buddhist world, or meditation centers, meditation teachers, have different takes on the role, the importance of teachers. And there's some traditions and some teachers that encourage a really high level of fidelity to their particular technique or what they've learned that's useful for them, and are teaching it in some sort of structured way, and request and in some cases require a high level of conformity to a particular style, particular technique, and oftentimes to a particular teacher as well, the actual person. You see that in different traditions, kind of the some teachings that have a very strong methodology to them, or have a very tight structure, and the encouragement to not practice in any other kind of tradition or with any other kind of contemplations or teachings, not to explore, not to get lost, if you will, in other styles of practice, but to really concentrate on just that one, and to hold to that. And sometimes also accompanied by a certain relationship, a one-to-one relationship with a particular teacher, what sometimes is called the guru relationship with a student. And that being kind of one end of a bar, and then the other style that sometimes people practice with is one that's completely uncommitted to any particular tradition or any particular teacher, and is more of a highly eclectic kind of self-created practice that maybe changes over time and adjusts, and but is pretty much self-directed without a whole lot of guidance, maybe tapping into teachings from many different traditions and crafting one's own style based on one's own preferences. And then there's all the areas in between that one might experience, of having some sort of commitment to a particular style or a particular school, and having certain affinities, say, for a teacher, or a couple of teachers, and following that, but without any kind of strong one-to-one commitment. So a wide variety of styles that one can encounter with that. We were talking about, in our particular tradition, the Ajahn Chah, Theravada, Thai Buddhist way that we approach things. We tend to encourage a certain, not so much particularly a strong commitment within the lay practitioners anyway, but encourage people to sort of hone in on a particular style, and if they're interested in the Ajahn Chah teachings, the Thai forest tradition, then to spend some time with that and get to know it. And it doesn't mean that it has to be exclusive, and one can't that one can't explore other teachings and other traditions at all. But to not get too lost in just wandering around, but to use the opportunity to hone in on a specific area if it's one that appeals, without wandering over many, many different traditions. So that can be a very useful kind of a commitment. And then also, if you find a particular teacher within that tradition or a particular tradition, to possibly try and spend more time learning from them in whatever way is possible these days. Again, not necessarily a formal commitment, but one that recognizes that, oh, this person may have something to offer that would be useful, and maybe I can draw close for whatever period of time seems appropriate. So, like I said, a wide range of how different people approach the teacher-student relationship in Buddhist practice. There's a often quoted teaching from the Buddha that sometimes people use to justify or explain a very self-directed kind of approach, where it is often commented, at least that the Buddha said, don't trust anything I say just because I said it. And, you have to decide for yourself what is appropriate teaching for yourself, and make it your own practice. And the sutta, or the teaching that's often quoted as being the source of that, is the Kalama Sutta, which is in the Anguttara Nikaya, the numerical discourses, the Anguttara threes. And it's a sutta teaching which describes this clan of people called the Kalamas, who live in a district called Kesaputta. And they heard that the Buddha was nearby, and went to visit him, and were asking him about this because a number of teachers of different traditions had been coming through their area and telling the Kalamas what it was that they taught and what they practiced, and were also denigrating, disparaging other traditions, and saying, essentially, what I say is correct and what I teach is correct and everybody else is wrong. And so that happened on several occasions, and they took this to the Buddha and said, we're perplexed, we're confused about who to believe. Some people say that their way is right and others are wrong, and then other people say the same thing, and we just don't really know who to believe. Can you help us? And the Buddha's response was, well, it's right and it's justifiable to be perplexed about things that are perplexing. Yes, you have a very good reason to question all of this. And that's when he says, don't go by just what a particular tradition says, or what your ancestors practiced, or even by reasoned cogitation, thinking, reflection, or by tradition, or by by certain kinds of beliefs. Don't use those. Don't necessarily pick up something and believe it based on those particular styles of choosing something, but look for yourself, and when you know for yourself that certain qualities result in wholesome states of mind, then pick those up, pick those practices up, pick those traditions up when you know for yourself. And some people kind of stop at that point and say, okay, well, that means I should just do what feels right. But it's actually a bit more nuanced than that, and that's not at all really what the Buddha was saying. But he was clearly pointing out to the importance of reflecting and on these particular teachings, but also using certain benchmarks. It can't be just doing what feels right, because oftentimes our defiled states of mind will tell us that what's right is something that actually isn't so good, because we're not seeing clearly. So in addition to that self-examination and bringing it in for one's own reflection before taking it on to see for oneself, he also mentions that you should have some benchmarks. So essentially those benchmarks being reflecting on those practices or those teachings. Do they result in unwholesome or wholesome states of mind? Do they result in harmfulness to others or oneself, or to non-harming for others and for oneself? So giving some benchmarks about how to use and how to reflect on those particular teachings that you might be hearing. Then he goes further on, actually, to be quite very specific, and going through the precepts and saying, so when you're looking at these practices or these teachings, reflect. When I take life, is that for the harm or the benefit of others? And of course, the answer is it's for the harm. If I refrain from taking life, is that for benefit or harm? Does it result in wholesome or unwholesome states? And the answer is, well, it of course results in wholesome states of mind when I refrain from taking life. And then on through the precepts of um, refraining from taking that which isn't given results in wholesome states of mind. When you reflect on it, makes you feel good. When I refrain from sexual misconduct, what's the result? It makes me feel good. So you're bringing it in. When I refrain from lying or harsh speech, what is the result? The result is that it doesn't cause harm, and it makes one feel contented and peaceful inside. So you're using a self-examination process, and you're not taking it just on face value, and you're bringing it in for reflection. But you're also using certain benchmarks of the results of taking these practices on. And then he further says to use your relationship with wise people to help decide what's useful or beneficial. So one does need to associate with wise people and question with them the results, talk with them about the different practices that you're thinking of. And if you trust them and if you know them over a long period of time and respect their practice and their teachings, then use their wise counsel. And this is an appropriate way of using a teacher-student kind of relationship. So it's for sure it's don't take my word for it. Bring it in, bring it in for your own reflection. But it means to do that with wisdom too, not just following your own particular conditioned instincts. So, some of the Buddha uses a lot of different benchmarks for us to measure the results of what it is that we're practicing, how we're practicing, and many different places and different combinations of qualities that wholesome qualities that arise when we're practicing in the right way, in accordance with the Dhamma, in accordance with the teachings that he has given. And we can reflect on those different benchmarks, kind of like what I've been doing in the mornings, reviewing highest blessings, wholesome mind states, and seeing if they're there, and adjusting as needed to encourage those to arise. So, a number of different qualities kind of come to mind that the Buddha talks about. Do you experience a sense of contentment from how you're living your life and how you're structuring your practice? Contentment versus discontent. Does it result in a sense of modesty rather than self-aggrandizement? Is that one of the results? Does energy come into do you feel inspired and energetic rather than lazy and dull? That's another benchmark. Many qualities that the Buddha talks about, being easy to please, easily satisfied, rather than being burdensome to other people. Or all of the paramis that he talks about is generosity increasing rather than stinginess? Is virtuous behavior increasing rather than harmful behavior? Is patience on the increase rather than agitation and impatience? Or all the other qualities like truthfulness and equanimity and loving kindness, are these all conditions in the mind and in the heart that are increasing rather than their opposites increasing? So using these as benchmarks, and we have to review the effects of what it is that we're doing to see if these are arising? And ultimately, does it result in less suffering and more peace of mind, in more peace in the heart, is the ultimate benchmark. So we need to do that with regularity to make sure that we're, what we're attending to, the teachings that we're working with are doing what they're supposed to do, not just doing them out of ritual because we've heard that it's supposed to be good to do a particular kind of a practice. So doing it with consciousness to see the effects of it. That's in the 4 bases of success. That's the final stage, is reviewing the effect of what it is that we're doing, just to see what it is that, how we've undertaken something. Is it giving the results that that we had hoped? And kind of as far as a teacher, choosing a teacher, the Buddha does give some advice on that too, and in that if one is feeling attracted to a particular style of teaching from someone and feels like it's something worth pursuing, not necessarily to jump in full on right from the very beginning, but to spend time getting to know that particular teacher and those particular teachings. So over a long period of time, not a short period of time, being with that teacher, spending time, getting to know it, reflecting, and seeing how the effects of their practice, what the effects are on that particular person. Do they seem to be benefiting from their practice? Do they have the same benchmarks for success in the practice that you're looking at in yourself? And also observing them, their particular kind of behavior, their moral conduct, and both in times of ease and in times when there's difficulty. So if they're in challenging conditions, or if they're being provoked in some way or going through tough times, how are they holding up to that? So getting to know that teacher over a long period of time, through many different ups and downs, and seeing if there's consistency in that practice. And then, if so, drawing close, drawing near, and helping, using them as a guide. The Buddha often described his role as a teacher as one of kalyanamitta, spiritual friendship. And I think that's probably the highest form of service that a teacher can have for students, is to kind of engender that sense of being a spiritual friend, a spiritual resource. And the practice always does have to keep on coming back to oneself and relying on oneself. So we have a relationship with the teacher and a tradition and a certain practice that we're trying to get something from, but we ultimately have to be the ones who take it in and reflect on it and apply it. There's a story of a monk who was with Ajahn Chah, and Ajahn Chah had decided to send him off to another monastery, and for a period of time, and this monk didn't want to go. He didn't want to leave Ajahn Chah. He felt like a strong connection, felt he was getting a lot of benefit from the teachings from Ajahn Chah, and he didn't want to go because he was afraid that he wouldn't have any good teacher. And Ajahn Chah's advice to him was, well, you do, when you go anywhere, you will have 6 teachers with you. You'll have your eyes, your ears, your nose, your tongue, your body, and your mind, and these are your ultimate teachers. You need to use your 6 sense bases as the contact point with the world, and to learn to observe what arises in the heart based on these 6 teachers. So you have your teachers with you wherever you go once you've developed a little bit of confidence in the practice. So those are just a few thoughts about teacher-student relationship and how to gauge our practice and some benchmarks for our practice. And maybe have some time for some questions now, if there are any. Let's see.
The first one is right here.
Okay, let's see. Okay, starting out with a high level question here. Whoop, we just lost it. Go back up. There we go. Is Anapana meditation, is that the best meditation to attain higher jhanas? This is an extremely complicated area of discussion these days. And I'll try and be kind of succinct in the answer because don't want to get into extremely lengthy explanation or discussion about jhanas at this point. But a lot of the answer to that question depends on what you actually, how you actually define jhana. And there's many different ways that people interpret and talk about jhana, and oftentimes quite vehemently disagree with each other in what sometimes is kind of referred to as the jhana wars. So not wanting to get into a battle about all of that, just to point out that a lot of the ways that we understand jhanas has in recent years has come from the commentarial tradition with the way that it's described, jhana is described there. And more recently, growing number of people who are referring more back to the suttas themselves for a kind of a different reflection or approach to the understanding of what jhanas actually are. And looking more also towards the experience of particular teachers. And I would say that there are a number of teachers in our tradition that are finding benefit in exploring and teaching from a more sutta-based explanation of what jhana actually means. So depending on how you define jhana and the experience that you're looking for and how to use it, the techniques are going to be different. Anapanasati is certainly one of the basic forms of meditation, or one of the prime meditation objects for either interpretation of what the jhanas actually are. But how it's used and the context with it used can be quite different. So, and there's really not a distinction made in terms of technique, like Anapanasati versus other tools of reflection for particular stages of jhana. Anapanasati is a great meditation focus. It's one of the contemplations of the body that's pointed out in the Satipatthana Sutta. As everybody knows, the Satipatthana, the establishings of mindfulness, is divided up into contemplations or foundations, frames of reference regarding the body, regarding feelings, regarding mind, and regarding certain dhammas or categories of teaching. And Anapanasati is one of the frames of reference for bodily contemplation, amongst others. But it's one that's quite expounded on in the Buddhist teachings, and is a very useful way of reflecting on the body and using the body both for calm and for insight. And that's what all the Satipatthana teachings are basically aiming towards, is developing both samatha and vipassana, calm and insight, with all of those particular objects of meditation that are presented there, as a way of bringing the mind together in clarity, as well as calmness, as well as insight, and the merging and maturation of those is the result is a collectedness or a samadhi, a very strong composure of mind, that is the result of any of those contemplations when taken seriously. But anapanasati is a good one that many of us use for that. So I'll just leave it there without going into bigger detail at this point. Let's see. Okay, how can a lay practitioner find a teaching or teacher? Well, again, it's kind of like what I was reflecting on. I'm sorry, I should have asked Luang Por, did you have any other, before we go on to that question, any reflections that you might want to add about the anapanasati question?
No, not at all.
Okay. Okay.
It's great.
All right. So a lay practitioner finding a teacher or teaching, and it's pretty much what I was reflecting on in the first part of the evening. And it's basically just finding a particular style through exploration, doing some reading, checking out sources on the internet, listening to talks that are provided by different teachers. In the old days before COVID, we used to suggest going and visiting places and going on retreats and that kind of stuff. I think more has to be done online these days for sure. But using that same kind of discernment to gradually check a few things out, check a few different kinds of styles out, find one that feels like it might be worth exploring, and then spending some time with it. It's always good to make after an initial exploration and testing ground for your own particular interests or needs, it's good to find something and get to know it deeper. If you're always, it's like being on the surface of a sphere or a ball. If you're always kind of wandering around and taking little bits and pieces, you just stay on the surface. But you kind of sometimes have to stop somewhere for a while and penetrate and go deeper if you want to get to the interior of that. So it just takes some initial exploration, and then willing to spend some time with one particular style and see where it can take you. Otherwise, you're always just skirting the surface. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, basically that's it. And again, just because I mean, when there's so much available these days, but direct contact is it's hard to replace that. But with global pandemic, that makes it a bit difficult. So it's important to try to extrapolate from one's experience from listening in on teachings, reading, and like YouTube or Zoom. You're trying to get a feel for a teaching and a teacher, and Another aspect is, I think, also just learning how to trust yourself. That's turning it the other way around, because if you're always looking for, because there is nobody who is a perfect teacher.
Right.
as long as, because there was plenty of people criticized the Buddha.
Yeah.
I mean, found fault with him. So, I mean, if he gets criticized, what's the hope for the rest of us?
That reminds me of the story of Ajahn Chah. I think it was somebody coming to Ajahn Chah, after having been to many, many different teachers and always finding fault or finding criticism or finding something that wasn't right, and was coming to talk with Ajahn Chah and seeing if Ajahn Chah was going to be the his perfect teacher. And, after hearing his story, Ajahn Chah, his comment, I think he used the analogy. It says, "Well, what you're looking for is a turtle with a mustache," and there is no such thing as a turtle with mustache. You're always going to be disappointed. You'll find something wrong with me too.
Yeah.
I don't know if that person stayed around for very long.
No.
Decided to get out early. Okay, let's see. Hello, Ajahns. I was wondering how I can practice right speech when friends try to force me to gossip. Do I decline to answer or say there's nothing to talk about? I'm realizing how important this is. It is an important thing. And it's hard because, people gossip a lot. And it's kind of a sort of a pastime. It can be very addictive. So it's good to realize that usually not a whole lot of good comes from it, and how to kind of skillfully back out of it without kind of making yourself annoying is a real skill, because sometimes we can get pretty self-righteous, with our criticism of other people who are maybe engaging in unskillful speech, and can get into that self-righteous kind of feeling. So it's good to be aware of that, and we don't have to go around policing everybody else in their speech, but learning how to just gently disengage and not participate, I think is very useful, and just being quiet and listening, and if an opportunity arises during the course of the conversation, to gently redirect it, or if it's getting into, like, saying, criticizing somebody behind their back, or talking about somebody in a derogatory way, to acknowledge maybe what people are saying, and then also say, well, the person that we're talking about, I've also seen, in addition to that, I've also seen some really skillful qualities, and trying to remember and recollect and gently point out, that everything's not always one-sided. It's, people aren't unidimensional. So kind of bringing that up as a counterpoint, and if it's done skillfully, and again without that self-righteous quality, then it can be a wake-up call for people. And I've had that happen to me when I've been unnecessarily criticizing somebody, and somebody's pointed out the other person's skillful qualities, and it's sort of like, oh, right, okay, I don't have to dwell just on one side of the thing. So and then if it's just kind of mindless chatter, then sometimes one has to just listen patiently and then bow out in whatever way one can. Thoughts? Good. Okay. Let's see.
I think something
we lose some.
Yeah.
Okay. What are skillful approaches to cope with things that disrupt our meditation, spiritual practice, sleep, or our normal routine, including children, pets, noisy neighbors, or unexpected demands of life? Well, just to realize, I think that, life isn't perfect, and the conditions that we feel, like are most conducive to our meditation, our spiritual practice, our sleep, or our routine, disruptions are just part of living in the world, part of being a human being. Certainly, children and pets and noisy neighbors and things like that are part of our daily lives, and just recognizing the naturalness of that, and the fact that we really don't have a lot of control all the time over those. We certainly, as we make choices in our lives over time, we can choose to be in more skillful environments or with fewer unnecessary distractions. But depending on the lifestyle that we've chosen, and since we've created our own karma, in some ways. But also realizing that just the karma of being a human being and living with other people and living in a world that isn't perfect, it's going to have its unpleasant sides to it. So it's just accepting that, reflecting that life is 50-50 here in the human realm. We have a lot of good things and a lot of supportive conditions, and there's a lot of distractions and things that come along, but that we do have the ability to learn how to be balanced and centered in the midst of many different kinds of activities, and even in the midst of chaos sometimes. If we can keep that perspective of looking at the way things are, and that there are distractions, there are unpleasant impingements on our senses that come in, and we can't pretend that they're not there, and we can't wish them away, but we don't have to add that second layer of suffering that comes from resistance to things that we can't control. Certainly, if we can control it and make our lives simpler and more peaceful by restructuring some of the external things, then we should do that. But if we can't, then we don't need to add that second layer of suffering. And that's really the suffering that the Buddha talks about when he talks about the ending of dukkha. It's not the ending of all unpleasant experiences, the ending of that layer of resistance and not accepting and running away from the way things are when we can't control them. So it's more an attitude kind of a thing. It's that one starts to work on to become a bit more spacious and being able to hold more over time through developing that kind of more boundless qualities of mind that can contain anything really when developed to the full extreme.
Yeah, I mean, of course, this is that classic teaching of Ajahn Chah's of when he was in London and leading a meditation when it's a pub across the way, and it was warm, so the window was open, pub across the way, traffic noise and music, and then somebody asked, what do you do when noise and sound comes to disturb the meditation? And Ajahn Chah's immediate response is that the sound isn't disturbing you. You're going out and disturbing the sound. And it's really important to see that that sense of it's impossible to control everything and make conditions perfect so that you can be quiet and peaceful and and be not disturbed by things. I mean, that's impossible. I mean, you think even when we're in a monastery, I mean, it's just, it's like, it doesn't matter where you are in any monastery. There's always going to be something that's disturbing in some way. Like living in Thailand. I mean, it's no traffic noise. It's the sound from the villages and the village festivals with the incredible loudspeakers going, or here in Pacific Hermitage. It's like with the rain coming, and then we've got sort of people on trail bikes and walking on the trails, and I don't know, it's sound. It doesn't matter where you are. Baigiri, yeah, we've got neighbors who love their guns. It's are you going to get upset at everything that isn't pleasant? You'll die before you find the perfect situation.
It's really funny because the monastery is definitely not always a quiet place.
Yeah,
noticing that today on the trails back open, and the people don't see us because we're kind of hidden in the trees, but the trail that people use now for biking and walking, it's just right across the little stream from my cabin and your cabin as well. And people talking, you can hear everything they say. You can hear all their intimate conversations, and the complaints about their partner, and
stuff we don't want to know about, but
right.
we get to hear it.
You kind of want to say, "Excuse me, do you know I can hear everything you're saying?" But if you let that bother you, then it's going to be bothered all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Ajahns, the other day, Luang Por touched upon developing spiritual faculties. Would you kindly give some reflections on especially how spiritual faculties mature into spiritual powers?
Keep doing it.
I was just going to say, keep practicing.
That's it. There's no magic.
Just keep developing your faith, developing your energy, developing your mindfulness.
Develop your concentration, develop your wisdom. Keep doing it.
Keep doing it, and then it becomes a spiritual power. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, more practical question. Will we be seeing Ajahn Sudanto morning coffee streams again? Those were great for me. Smile. The future is unknown.
Yeah.
With Ajahn Sudanto especially, the future is unknown these days. He is still planning to continue his sabbatical for another several months for sure. And will be traveling sometime in the next couple of months from Abhayagiri, where he's on retreat, up to Birken Monastery, where he's on. He will continue his retreat, the plan being through at least until April 1st. So it's highly unlikely that you'll be seeing him for morning coffee in the near future. But after that, who knows? Dear Venerables, how long do you recommend staying in a tradition to know it's a good one for you? I notice more peace and calm following one tradition, but also anger and rage keep coming. Yeah, it's kind of an individual decision. There's really no specific period of time that one needs to spend, but you kind of have to judge for yourself and notice the effects. And you do want to, I mean, basically, the best I can tell is, you have to have a sense of patience and give things some space and time to see if it's something that's generally agreeable, and if it's not causing any harmful states of mind to repetitively come. Then it's useful to stick with it and work with it, particularly if you've got a teacher who or a spiritual friend in that same tradition who can kind of help you through some of the gnarly parts. So it's good to stick with it until you have a good sense that it may not be something that you want to keep doing in the long run, particularly if you have some inclination or inkling of some other particular style or practice that might be of use. So it's kind of not a very specific answer, but you just have to judge for yourself when something's just not working anymore. In terms of evaluating the effectiveness of a tradition or a practice based on how much anger and rage are still arising. Again, if you have to use some discernment, but with also a great sense of patience. Mental states like anger, and particularly if it's as strong as rage, are oftentimes well-conditioned responses in ourselves. And even if you've got just the right perfect technique for yourself or way of reflecting on it, these habits of mind, these patterns, often don't change all that quickly. So, as I think when Paul was talking about in one of our last streams, that the virtue or the parami of khanti, patience, is, as we were saying, it's the supreme incinerator of obstructive mind states, and creating that space in mind that allows one to bear with that which is unpleasant, is a great benefit. And if there's a lot of harm coming from it for yourself or for others, then sometimes it does make sense to make a move to something else that might work better for you.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. Hello, Venerable Ajahns. How could I start practicing Vipassana meditation? Samatha meditation goes very well, but I feel troubled when I try to observe the three characteristics. Thanks in advance. Well, the distinction between samatha and vipassana meditations, calling them, they are often used as a way of describing certain meditation techniques, but the more clear way I think that the Buddha used those was that they were, and that the way Ajahn Chah certainly taught was that they are two ends of the same stick, that you really pick them both up. One might be kind of in the lead, if you will, by a person's particular affinities, might be able to develop the quality of calm fairly easily, or might have a tendency more towards a reflective mind more easily. Kind of, I think most people in the West tend to, have a stronger proclivity for being able to reflect than to immediately develop a very calm state of mind. But one leads to the other, one supports the other, and they're really, like vipassana is just a word for insight. It's what is the result of certain ways of contemplating or reflecting. Samatha just means calm, which is a result of how one places attention on a particular object or a subject of meditation. And Vipassana isn't just observing the three characteristics, although that's, oftentimes how it's described, as insight into anicca, dukkha, anatta. But I would say, that it's just a very natural part of meditation practice in general. And if you're practicing with any of the frames of reference, the satipatthana, you can very easily develop both samatha and vipassana. In fact, they're very hard to separate, so that just when you do reflect, say, on the breathing or the 32 parts of the body or the elements, and you're using them skillfully, then you can just slightly shift your attention and just introducing a brief question. You don't have to make it an extensive discursive process, but just sort of reflect. Okay, like I've been using this reflection on my body. Can I see this body just as it right now, right here, as I'm breathing in and breathing out, and the mind is calming down? Just noticing the transiency of bodily experience, the different little movements of the body, or the naturalness of the heartbeat, or the natural bodily functions, and then just using that as the object of meditation, with the kind of background reflection of it's all changing every moment. This experience is changing. And even more importantly, it's doing it all by itself. There isn't anybody here who has to control this body. I don't have to take an ownership and say, okay, heart, keep beating, or, keep breathing. But just to kind of step back with that calmness of the breathing and notice how it's automatic. It's just something that you, in quotes, don't have any control over. And then just allowing that experience to happen. It's a feeling kind of an experience. It's not a constantly verbal, kind of a thing. You just use a reflection to verbally in the mind to introduce a certain experience. And then you just stay with that, just in a very gentle way. And then, just to use that ability to ask a question, to point oneself in the direction of that experience, rather than having to think about it on and on and on. Any thoughts, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's getting some space or flexibility around how one conceives of samatha and vipassana. I think there tends to be a bit too rigid an application of what is considered especially with vipassana, as if it's a thing, or a way of doing it, a technique, a way of doing it. It's really not how the Buddha described it, taught it. It's a result, and that result sometimes can rely on the conceptual process and the discursive process, and and if I had to sit and think about anicca, dukkha, anatta, anicca, boy, that'd just be so boring. It would not, but if one reflects in terms of the kind of nature, Dhamma principles, the kind of cause and effect relationships of how things work, how things come to be, how things fall apart, what's their tone? Is it dukkha or sukha? What's their essence? Is it me and mine, or is it not? So you start holding it in ways that become really interesting, because the Dhamma is really interesting. And but if it becomes too formulated and rote, then it's stultifying.
Yeah. You just don't want to do it.
You don't want to do it. So those are some thoughts.
And just as a side to that, if I've been invited by Spirit Rock to do an online meditation afternoon, and it's, I can't remember, sometime in October 10th. October 10th. And you have to sign up through Spirit Rock to do it. It's a whole sign up procedure there, but it's actually on that particular topic, samatha and vipassana, and how it's often misunderstood, and how maybe it might be useful to work with those. So that'll be a 1 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon on October 10th. Go to the Spirit Rock website if you are interested. So it's already past 8.
Yeah.
We should probably
wrap it up.
Right. I think there's still a couple of questions, but we might have to let those go this evening.
Yeah.
We do have an announcement before everybody signs off. We have just put up on our website yesterday, the Hermitage website, about our final garden party for this year, where people often come on a Saturday to help out with some garden chores and then to hang out with each other, talking Dhamma. And it was, and it's scheduled, we announced on our website for this coming Saturday, but we have just decided that we will need to cancel that. So it's not going to be happening. It's just both Luang Por and myself had a very brief possible second-hand exposure to COVID. And we're not particularly concerned about it for ourselves because it was pretty remote. But yet, tests are still being done on various people, and we feel like we just would like to take an abundance of caution, and we'll probably be able to survive without a garden party, although, we'll make do, but just didn't want to bring that element of concern into anybody's life. So if you were planning to come, please don't. I've just asked our web person if she wouldn't mind putting out an announcement on that as soon as we can. So just wanted to add that to the mix of interesting things happening in the world. And see you later.
Okay. Take care, everyone.
Got the room. No, that's the fan.
It's okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. It's our Tuesday live stream, and we're still live streaming. Nothing looks clear yet at all, so best to keep up the live stream. So it's nice to see people joining, gathering together. We'll begin the evening with a short period of sitting meditation, and just settle a bit. So begin with our posture, sitting, whether one's sitting in a chair, sitting on the floor, lying down, on whatever. Pay attention to your posture. Have that awareness and mindfulness of the body. Bring attention into the body, and the Buddha is quite adamant and repetitive of how important mindfulness of the body is. One who is mindful of the body sees the deathless. One who's not mindful of the body does not see the deathless. It's pretty categorical. So just to bring the attention back into the body, but also attending to the fundamental kind of feeling, mood of the mind, the kind of perception of the mind. Say one wants to lift the mind up to that which is wholesome, skillful, brightening, and there's just any number of ways to do that. Just as a things happen in just our daily life, or a memory is stimulated that's very wholesome and skillful, and just to bring attention to that. So often there's this assumption that we've got to stop thinking and just stop the mind from moving, stop the mind from doing anything, and it's really uncomfortable. Of course, we want to step back from our scattered and obsessed minds, but to help direct the mind to things that are skillful, that are beautiful, that warm the heart. Just say simple example for myself. The last couple days, like night before last, I just had a dream of Ajahn and that just it's a wonderful memory, and great perception to bring into the mind, and it's not because it's more around perception and feeling. What kind of feeling, mood does one want to establish? Because if you overthink it or try to be really logical and rational, you say, I have a dream of Ajahn Chah. I wake up, well, he's been dead for how many years? What's the point? And well, that's not the point. The point is the feelings that are elicited. And, we all have a whole variety of, perceptions, memories, associations. And what do we draw attention to? I mean, the habit of the human mind, and of course it's very well documented, a negativity bias. I mean, the mind gets drawn more quickly and to the negative. It gives it more importance, and you can have 10 positive things and one negative thing, and what sticks in the mind is the negative one. And we have to be alert to that, and just being, so just creating a certain conscious effort at drawing attention to things which do brighten the mind. So when we sit, and it's not just thinking or wishful thinking or Pollyannish thinking, it's really skillful, because our thoughts, what we direct our attention to, has a result, and we want to support the result of well-being and ease, because that is, just say, very naturally a far better support for mindfulness, for clarity, and for a steadiness, a stability of mind. The mind that is more inclined to well-being and ease is much more steady, and it has that effect. So just consciously directing attention, lifting the mind up to that which is skillful, but staying in the body. What's the effect? The body is having a kind of it's like your background or your backdrop of the meditation. It's sort of an overall sense of the posture, or a feeling of the rhythm of the breath, or a attentiveness to a particular sensation of the breath at a particular point. It's whatever is comfortable, because that is the building block. And so that putting attention onto the building blocks of the mind that generate this sense of clarity and a sense of ease and stillness. So we can take this opportunity to sit quietly for a bit. Again, welcome to everyone, and I'll continue with some reflections, and then we'll have some occasion for some questions. I think one of the things that has also been coming up in my mind these last few days, actually several days, is the reflecting on the 4 elements, and this is a very important contemplation as a way of getting perspective on our experience. Certainly something that the Buddha himself taught and encouraged, and it is this is when we say the 4 elements. They're the 4 primary elements of earth, water, fire, and air. But it's not like earth in terms of dirt or the ground or anything. It's more, these are properties, and contemplating the properties that make up and particularly these 4 primary elements. They make up our bodies, and they make up the world around us, and they're particular properties of the material realm, and to be reflecting on these primary elements. So it's like the element of earth is like the element of that which is solid, takes up space. There's a tangible aspect to it. I think also one of the things to right from the get-go, to think in terms of these when one is contemplating the elements. It's not that they are they stand alone. There's always a certain mixture, or they manifest in different ways, in the sense of, something might be somewhat solid, but it's kind of light, and styrofoam's a good example. Say it's solid, it takes up space, but it's got a lot of air in it, and that that's the way. There's all these elements have different mixtures and manifest in different ways, and one isn't trying to kind of come to some absolute essence of element. It's more of it's a broad brush, but it's especially in contemplating our own bodies and bodies of others, world around us. One reflects on how these properties appear to us, and how do we experience them? How do we feel them? And that is what that does is helps us to step back from the personalizing of things, and certainly the body is any way that we can ameliorate that personalizing and identification with something being me. Seeing, oh, it's just these elements, and they're manifesting in a particular way, so that the contemplation of the earth element, and when they like in the classic contemplation on the 32 parts of the body, then it's like hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, skin. Those are all considered to be earth element. The internal organs, bones, these are all sort of earth element. And it just is it's kind of a broad brush way of looking at the experience of a body, and not getting too caught up in either the characteristics or the identification we have with it. It's just these elements, a part of nature. I think that's the important aspect, is that recognizing that we are part of this natural world, natural elements. That is there's a liberating quality to that, where we're not constantly referring back to me and my dramas, me and my difficulties, me and my successes. It's just, oh, there's these elements manifesting in different ways. And so as a meditation, it's one can be attentive to the experience of the elements, in the sense of just with the earth element of, you say, it's that which is solid, takes up space, and our body definitely feels that. It's solid. It has a weight to it. When we sit, there is the experience of a pressure, because of the weight, and just the weight of gravity, and because we're solid, part of nature. So we're, and that so there is that the sense of heavy and light, in the sense, and lightness is just another say say the opposite coin of the side of the coin of say like of heaviness. Just the manifestation of the earth element in a slightly different way, or where it's say rough or smooth, it's still the earth element there. It's like something that is like a piece of wood. I remember when they making the shrine for our Buddha image at Abhayagiri. It's this slab of madrone wood, which is quite a dense wood, and it's like about yay thick, and yeah, definitely earth element. It's heavy. It's takes up space. It's holding the Buddha image, which is stone, which is another earth element, and but it's also because of the nature of the wood, then they sanded it with progressively finer and finer sandy paper until it was just incredibly smooth, just like this really solid piece of something, but it was really smooth. And it's just, again, it's just a manifestation of earth element. And, and we can feel that just on our skin. Sometimes our skin feels, very, it is earth element. And sometimes it can feel, different areas of the body can feel kind of rough. You're just feeling, say, like if you're with your hands and you feel around your knuckles. It's kind of rough, and so maybe your elbows, so it could be a bit rough. But then, sometimes say like the inside of the arm and the outside of the arm, there's a different texture. The inside is very smooth and the outside is a bit rougher. This is, again, it's just manifestation of the earth element. And it can be heavy or light, rough or smooth. That sense of just how it manifests. So that we, but it's just earth element, and that takes away the getting to, because it's kind of natural for the mind. We try to judge, like somehow, or maybe like, oh, smooth is better than rough. Well, it's not a sure thing. Depends what you want to use it for, or what you need it for, or what is helpful at it at a particular time. That sense of of heavy and light. It's just earth element. It's a manifestation of the elements. That's the sense of just taking up, inhabiting space, and so that looking at things as an aspect of nature, and it comes into being out of nature, and it return to nature. The aspect of say, like, of the water element is say, one of the aspects of the water element. Of course, it's fluid. It flows. It has a cohesive quality. It binds things together. Like if you want to take some medicine, you kind of chew it up and you drink it with some water, because it helps for it to flow into and to bind it together. Sometimes gagging on a pill, trying to get it down. It's just, it needs some water element for it to go down. These are it's the nature of the element itself. Or if we reflect on we're just, you say, as we're sitting here, you can feel this saliva in the mouth, and it's it keeps the, especially if you're talking or if you're sitting, even, it's just, without that fluid, the mouth gets dry, the throat gets dry, it feels a bit uncomfortable, and so that there's a kind of a soothing quality that comes from that. It's there's a kind of a cohesive feeling that arises, and that's quite necessary. So it's that sense of flowing, of say water in the say right now we're starting to say, like, we're going, of course we go in arms around, and up until a while ago, then there was no rain, there was no water element coming from the sky, and the trails and the road, they're very dusty. And you walk along, you come back from alms round, and you really have to scrub your feet, because they're dirty, and the dust is sort of caking on. It gets in the little cracks of the feet, and helps dries your feet out, and splits the skin. So that having some rain coming, the dust is settled, and there's the feeling the skin is a bit more cohesive, and it's a relief. Besides the cooling effect of it, so that it's nature. Nature is like this. Our body is an aspect of nature, and is learning how to view the body in its natural cycles and its natural elements, rather than it being a statement about me, and taking it very personally. And then also recognizing that you can actually take care of the body as well. Like that. It's just similar, having those it's not raining, cracks in the feet, cracks in the hands, moisturizing cream. I mean, it's just you're using that element of the water element, and water doesn't have to be H2O. I mean, it's more that it is the element of cohesiveness, the element of that which flows. That's recognizing these elements need to be balanced as well. Fire element, that's been a feature now these last mornings here at the Hermitage, lighting the fire in the morning. It feels really good to light that fire in the morning and take the cool of that early morning when we come together for our early morning puja and sitting meditation. Yeah, it's nice to be a bit warm, rather than too cold. So it's just and of course, if it's too hot, that makes you sleepy, which is you're trying to get that balance. But certainly that's that sense as the fall is coming, then it's just lighting the fire and just getting a sense of that fire element. You need to slowly build the fire up so that it gains some momentum. You can't sort of just strike a match or put the have a lighter, turn the lighter on, get a little flame going, and then pile a bunch of wood on top of that. It's not gonna work. It's bit by bit. It needs to slowly gain momentum. So that fire element and the fire element is just the element of heat, and say like coolness is just a decreasing of the fire element, or a lack of the fire element. So that just being attentive to that. The air element. The air element is just the element of, say, expansion, contraction. And then, of course, there is the air that we breathe in and breathe out. That is, say, part of the air element. There's also how it manifests itself in terms of that, expansion, contraction, a kind of supporting, kind of sort of buoyancy. It's sort of the part of the air element. I mean, I get to rely on the air element every day for meditation because my zafu is one that is a blow up zafu, so it has that supporting quality, and some of the it supports for a while, but then it needs to have this balance of how the say the earth element, kind of whatever they form it in, you put the air in. But if there's a kind of a break or a tear in that earth element of the kind of bladder that it is, then all the air goes out. And so there's how do these things work together? How do they fit together? So these elements are again the sense of nature, the natural forces, their natural aspects of the world around us, but in particular, they are the way this body, this form that we call us, is this collection, conglomeration of these elements working together, fitting together in different ways. But it also has there is, if you extend it out, because these are just how do you say it? That they are properties, and they're physical properties, and they're but they're properties that manifest themselves in nature. But when one can start to with reflection and consideration, one can start recognizing that even say like our mental components, our moods, our perceptions are affected by they have a certain elemental quality also. Sometimes we feel that we're being blown around by circumstances, or there's a feeling of kind of a whirlwind of emotion. Those are this air element, or a manifestation. I mean, it's not. It's presenting itself in a particular way, and we can turn our attention to elements. That's why it's really helpful to mindfulness of the body. It's something solid, it's something tangible, and it can be very settling. It can also end up being heavy and turgid. If one needs to balance, and one needs to experiment. And if the mood of the mind is very sluggish and very, kind of dull, then it needs some. We need a bit of fire going. It's just light a bit of fire under that mood, because fire is also associated with light, as well as energy. I mean, there's an energy with fire, so it's like so that what are ways that one can elicit a sense of sort of an energetic quality, and or just say just like drawing close to like the warmth of loving kindness. I mean, it's something that is very attractive, very settling. That warmth of compassion, of kindness. But say the heat of aversion or anger or ill will is not attractive. It's very unsettling. So that the sense of balance and attending to an elemental quality, and even in the the like with not just sort of personalizing not just stepping back from the personalizing of the body, it's also stepping back from the personalizing of the moods of the mind, that movement of mind, recognizing that it is elemental also, and to attend to ways that one can be balancing and settling and soothing and brightening the mind, and either energizing the mind or calming the mind. And it's an ongoing kind of adjustments that we need to be making, and with attentiveness, alertness. But again, recognizing we can be doing this without, it's not a statement about me, it's just sort of as an identity. It's just in nature there is this, elicits different feelings when there's the elements are in balance. So anyway, those are some reflections that have been coming up for me, and just sharing that for consideration, and I can open it up for questions if anybody has any questions. Shelley's got a note there. Just came back from Gaddis Park with Easy. They cut away the fallen trees, so you walk down and visit the spring source. Thought the source of the spring was up Spring Street, or is that sort of like where that comes into the I think like as a water course?
My thought was, the spring source is higher up, but it collects. There's a spring collection box. Down.
Oh, really?
Down at the bottom.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Question there.
Ajahn, can you share some reflections on how heading into the darker and colder time of the year impacts our mood? Well, for different people, it will impact in different ways. I'm delighting in it being cooler, that's and I'm personally, I don't get very affected by the darker times. I know it affects people, different people in many different ways. But of course, I grew up in the further north, so anywhere in the United States is like in the deep south for me. So it's a bit different. But yeah, it's just kind of conditioning, and also individually people will affect people in different ways, and I think it's important to again to recognize it as how the elements impact one, so that it is a one can then attend to, well, what are ways to balance that without it being again a statement about personal quality or a personal either flaw or failing or personal burden that one has to take. So it's more like a sense of being able to recognize, well, that it affects me in a particular way, and there are ways that are appropriate to be trying to balance it in some way, shape, or form, and for different people it'll be different ways. I mean, I know certainly for some of us, and kind of like the winter is a kind of a peaceful time, which is it's not necessarily a universal experience, but just the almost like nature going into abeyance, and all the trees losing their leaves, and the light sort of fading, and I find it quite soothing, which for many people is sort of like, oh, good grief, what's wrong with this? So it can be, for many people, it could be rather unsettling. So it's important to sort of recognize, well, what is the way that it affects, and what are the ways that we can be practicing with it, and allowing those elements to be say recognized and then attended to, because sometimes there's so many shoulds that we tend to layer over our experience, and that's it's quite a is being able to step back from that. And so there's aspects of nature that one can be paying attention to. Just please.
Yeah, just to add a little bit of a comment to that, just because I noticed too, with the longer nights and darker light, darker periods, the cooling, sometimes there's this sense of fatigue or tiredness or dullness, but then if it's an opportunity to change that perception, or to look at that different angle. And oftentimes I have success with that by just allowing the sense of softening to occur, because there's a certain softening element or experience that comes along with that. And rather than thinking of it as, or rather than viewing it or experiencing it as, dullness and heaviness, kind of switching that perceptual reality just a little bit to softness and slowing down, and that's part of the natural condition, as you were saying, just to Yeah, to notice that and reframe it in a sense as
Yes.
soft and gentle and
Yeah.
slowing down, turning in.
Yeah, because we can always turn things to our advantage, and say, as opposed to sort of, oh my God, things are slowing down, but it's more, and I'm really getting weighed down by this, but it's more, oh no, this is just shifting perspective. The feeling can be the same, but then we just shift our perspective slightly and say, oh, that can be a benefit, that can be utilized in a particular way. Okay, so here's a what are examples of ways in which we can balance unsettling feelings and emotions like fear or anger? I thought it was skillful to just be aware of the emotions in our body. That it's really helpful, I find anyway, that we do have a touchstone for the like unsettling emotions. Fear, anger are unsettling emotions, and to have a say the body as an anchor in terms of can we relax into this? Can we soothe this in some way? Can we settle this in some way? Can we be present with it? And because there tends to be, we tend to tighten up, or we tend to get agitated, and the our moods, our mental states don't really have a boundary. So that when there's when there isn't a boundary, then they can just keep expanding and moving. But if we bring it back to the body, then it's tangible, it's somewhat limited. So then we can be a bit more alert and present to what is the texture of a particular mood, and then what can we be bringing to that, to be able to relax, to create some space around it, to soothe it in some way. And so those are again, there's an elemental quality, but it's also a very experiential aspect of using the body to be both to be aware as well as to modulate the emotions that we do have and the moods that we do have. Any additions?
Says it well.
Okay. From Shelley, I tried brightening my mind in meditation. I thought of Percy the cat, and then my friends redistributing testimony. Is that the sort you meant before me? Yes, yeah, absolutely. These are, because these are like we have a thought in the mind, and our thoughts are always associated with some particular feeling or emotion, and perception there, and to recognize, it's just is more fruitful to give some space to the thoughts or memories or associations that have a positive quality, have a and it is tangible. Percy the cat's a tangible event in one's life, and or the say friends that are doing something really skillful, really, and you think you can really delight in that. It's something really, really good to see. So then it's those are brightening qualities to the mind, and then as that. And so one uses, and it's similar to the image of the, lighting a fire. You use the different thoughts and to kindle a momentum of well-being or momentum of clarity. Okay, to sort of reaffirm, is it correct to say that we can understand and perhaps improve our moods, feelings by understanding the four elements and the way they manifest? I would say so. That's why I was sort of using it as a tool to recognize that yes, there's these four primary elements, but there is a certain mental, emotional quality that makes itself present, and we use it in common parlance all the time. When you see somebody who is going through something really difficult, and you say, "Oh, that's really heavy," or somebody is oh, they're really just feeling really lighthearted today, and so it's
burning with anger,
or burning with
swimming
anger.
in joy,
Bubbling
with joy.
So these are quite say they're used in the ordinary, as I say, ordinary parlance of the idioms in the language. So then it has a by attending to it and reflecting on it, and you realize that there's ways that you can turn attention that are really one can be improving or helping oneself just in something very, very fundamental in experience. Dear Ajahn, does being in touch with elements of water, air, fire, earth externally via heat, shower, soil, help with depression? Well, I think one of the things that by making experience a bit more tangible and in in relationship with nature around one, I think it would. Again, I don't know. I'm not a qualified clinician, but I would think it would have a positive effect depression. Because one of the things with depression is things start to blur and tend to become amorphous and heavy, so that being able to bring things back to like a natural and an elemental level would help one to move through the getting a handle, getting grip. I think that's would be very helpful.
Yeah, and using, the calming and enjoyment of nature, like taking a walk. How many times when we take a walk in the woods, or like when I'm doing the loop trail out here or whatever, how many times do I actually stop and take it in,
Right.
and using that feeling from nature, and you can just stop and feel the the solidity of your body, the stand, look around, and kind of just pause for a moment and expand to the view around you, and kind of absorb some of those very soothing. Nature is so soothing, and kind of lifts you out of your own kind of constricted world if you just stop and look. Every 10 minutes on a walk, just kind of pause and open up.
Yeah, well, there's got to get to where we're going.
The loop trail takes me 45 minutes.
It's 45 goes okay. That's exactly what, because that's practice is really okay. Just not following those familiar ruts, and then giving ourselves the tools to sort of step out of those ruts. Okay, it looks like there's one last question. Is space considered an element? Space is considered an element. I mean, there are consciousness is considered an element. So when the Buddha talks of the four primary elements, those are sort of those materials, as I said, earth, water, fire, and air. But then there are discourses and suttas where the Buddha talks of the space element, and sometimes that's all he mentions, and then sometimes it's space element, and then also consciousness element. So that's an interesting expansion on the aspect of the elemental properties of being, both for our inner world and our outer world. And the Dhatu Vibhanga Sutta is a sutta that addresses the six elements, and it is a exceptionally good sutta. Majjhima Nikaya, I can't remember what the number is, 120 something or other, I think. That's off the top of my head with no clear recollection.
Yeah, and I find particularly when I'm using the elements as a contemplation that the space element is really a very useful one to kind of observe and experience the space element, the spacious parts of the body, where there's that kind of room to expand and just soothe and relax and open. Really paying attention to that helps to kind of quiet the mind.
Okay, I think we've managed to go through the various questions. Always good to see people gathering and joining in these events. So wish you all well, and Friday morning's the next time.